Watch out. There's a big hole. What was that? There's something really special about these specific wetlands. Out over there is the first place that I was able to catch and band a black rail. There's a camera that took a picture of a female and a chick out here yesterday. So they're right here, and they hear us. They may not be calling, but I know they're right here. Even if we don't hear them, I know they're in here. But yeah, that's my big fear, is the marsh will get quiet. Need to not forget to turn the camera on, and it's ready to go. I ask myself every time I decide to put out an array of cameras, what information do we need from this? Will this benefit these birds directly? They're dark grayish, brownish with white speckles, and then they have bright red eyes. When they're in context with the surroundings, the light is filtered through the vegetation. They perfectly blend in with the shadows. They blend in with the mud. It's just like a shadow passing. But what a black rail looks like is less relevant for most people than what a black rail sounds like. Hearing them is really distinctive. It's just this quirky little call that sounds like nothing else in the marsh.
Black rails are secretive marsh birds. They also don't like to fly. They really try hard never to be seen. Even very experienced black rail experts have only seen them a few times or maybe never. The wetland type, brackish, saltwater, fresh, doesn't matter as much as vegetation structure and the hydrology of the system. They're extremely picky. They like soils that are moist to 3 centimeters in depth, but they don't read books on where they're supposed to be found. So a lot of times you're going out to a marsh and you're thinking, this is beautiful habitat, and you don't find any. A lot of what we know is because of Christy. She's the one that is out there every day. She is the boots on the ground.
The way that the wind moves through the grasses, it's just really beautiful, the textures of the habitat. And I try to focus on that instead of the bugs. I first got involved with black rails in 2013. My whole first year of surveys, I didn't hear a single black rail. The only black rails I heard were like in my dreams. We know we have very, very few. We probably don't have more than 30 pairs in South Carolina, so they're incredibly rare.
If you look at any range map, it looks extensive. It looks like this bird is doing really, really well. But when you narrow down onto these populations, there's a lot of information beneath that is indicating that the species is in rough shape.
During these surveys, black rails were found in relatively good numbers for the species in Virginia and Maryland in particular. They largely were in this high elevation tidal marsh. And unfortunately, those areas, they're flooding more frequently, and they're also flooding more severely. In years since then, they've largely disappeared from some of those other states north of us. It's really been this shift, not that there are more black rails in South Carolina than there used to be. It's that they've almost disappeared from most of their range.
When we listed the species, we already understood that it was in severely rapid decline. If we project out into the future 50 years, sea level rise is projected to at least increase by about a foot or more in this area. In the context of moist soil to 3 centimeters in depth, that's not something that they can tolerate.
One of the most critical management tools we have to manage water levels for eastern black rail here in South Carolina is our rice drum. It's essentially a culvert under the dike here. We can drain and flood the impoundments through the tide, through these structures. Christy will call or text at 8 o'clock on a Friday and say, hey, we need to get rid of some water, and I'll be down here first thing Saturday to take care of it because I know how critical it is.
Along the coast, we have this long, tragic history of enslaved Africans hand digging these vast areas, creating these impoundments that were just meticulously leveled and subdivided for growing rice. And that was a big part of the development of this area of the country. What has happened is these impoundments are now incredibly valuable for wildlife and for water birds in particular. And it turns out they also are really valuable for black rails. That's really driven private landowners to invest a lot in maintaining these impoundments to support waterfowl hunting and to support water bird conservation. Those two things go hand in hand. In most places, they're pumping water with pumps, and it's hard to maintain those. And
oh, yeah.
It's great we can use this with the tides here.
I mean, this system is probably 300 years old. This property goes back to the 1600s, and there was a lot of human labor that went into this, a lot of suffering, and we need to be respectful of that. These residual ponds that we have now are part of those old rice fields. And so now they actually have become just a wonderful area for wildlife. It's not just the rail. We're protecting the rail's environment, and I think that's the real key.
These systems, they are the stronghold right now for our biodiversity. But the issues there is that a lot of these sorts of wetlands are under private ownership, and they've been heavily stressed over the last decade or so. A high frequency of tropical storms, a couple hurricanes, and that put a lot of stress on the infrastructure, especially these dikes. And that starts to add up into real dollars, especially for private landowners. And they're footing the bill for this, and we're talking to the tune of millions of dollars probably. Easily. Has been dumped into these systems by private landowners to maintain and keep these strongholds going. That's how important these are to the culture and the ecology of the Low Country.
The majority of our impoundments are historic rice fields, meticulously leveled, and the black rails use these lumpy, bumpy impoundments next to the rice fields that were created later on using heavy machinery.
This is a coastal area, and obviously red is high, blue is low, and you can see these striations, and those, of course, are old relic dunes. And so this relic freshwater wetland was turned into a rice field. You can see a little bit, but when you turn the LiDAR on, the ability to look through that canopy, you can see everything. Between looking at an aerial photo, where you can see a little bit of a color differentiation, to LiDAR, that's where it all pops out. This LiDAR has just been a whole leap in, as land managers, their ability to look at the landscape and figure out very quickly what's going on. If I had days or weeks, I could walk a whole landscape and kind of figure it out. Now I can look at things like this, and it really helps put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Since black rails have such short legs and water level management is so difficult, having those precise LiDAR data could help us to really optimize our management within individual impoundments. The LiDAR data will help us to really dial that in, and I'm hoping that will help to make the difference for black rails breeding successfully.
This connects to a whole other series of inland impoundments. It's a pretty complicated network. We draw water in from a little further down there and run it through canals. The soil out here, it was pavement, man. And it's taken years of trying to let things kind of wick in and saturate. Now that I got the pump, now I can do that from the top down.
Although the impoundment management is extremely important, we've been really trying to think about other ways we could create habitat for them where it would be more reliable. And that's why we are trying to test out irrigation to add these wet meadows. That's the goal, that we can make use of this pretty limited resource, these little patches of high marsh, by making the whole area available to the rails.
The Ace Basin in South Carolina is an interesting example of how we can delay some of the effects of sea level rise and where landowners are willing to tinker around with their property and to start implementing some of these irrigation techniques.
There are so many people who are interested in how this is working, how we're doing it, what tools they can use. So it's great because there's collaboration way beyond South Carolina.
For the black rail, it's not a matter of just having habitat. It's a matter of having the people that are dedicated to managing that habitat. We've got 2 great population centers, if you will, for black rails in South Carolina, but we need more. We've started actually creating new management units for black rails, and actually does work. It does give us hope that we can replicate that other places.
If they find the right spot, they might be able to raise 12 chicks. It's amazing what a big difference a single pond can make for these birds. So the work that these landowners are doing is really huge in terms of the impacts it can have. With their high reproductive potential, I really believe these birds could recover. And that's why we really need to pivot and add these wet meadows and irrigation, because it greatly increases the opportunities that we have and the amount of area that we have. A lot more people could be involved, and we could really make a much bigger difference for the birds. This area fills me with hope, and there's just a sense of wonder working with these birds. It's just wild to have a species that we're learning basic things about right here